Hey, this is Peyton, and I'm ready to rant. And today I'm going to be ranting about a certain animated film which has been very much so on my mind ever since it was announced, and I'm sure many of yours, and I'm not going to waste time. I am talking about Illumination Animation's Super Mario Bros. Movie, which is indeed an animated film that features the Nintendo characters from the Super Mario Bros. Franchise. And it turns out, after seeing it, I have a lot of conflicting, shouldn't be able to coexist, probably due primarily because I'm such a big fan of the Mario series, thoughts on this film. And this rant is going to be like part review, part me just sharing scattered thoughts, and ultimately kind of wondering what could come out of this relationship between Nintendo and Illumination if this film is a success. And I say if because this is the second day that the film is in theaters, maybe the third, but it's one of those two, like at the time of this recording. And I really am like wondering how well it's doing. I'm assuming that it's just like for collectors, but they actually already are releasing a physical edition of this movie, like on Walmart's website. Like you can pre-order it. It's not out yet, but like the fact that they're already like pushing physical copies of the film, like, you know, to sell and make money from while it's still in theaters it's a little funny to me. Like not everybody's going to buy the collector's edition, but it's interesting that they're already even listing that. And man, this movie, this movie is very interesting. I'm going to just come right out and say this at least. If you're wondering, like, as somebody who is just looking for an animated film, first of all, I don't know how you found this video, but hello, thank you for listening. And it is really, like, as an animated film, it's not that good in my opinion. If you were to strip away all of the Mario branding, like all of the Mario iconography in the film, and just like pretend these characters are just, they were made for this movie, there is not a lot here that I look at and think, oh, this is exactly how a Mario movie should be made, or this is like the best a Mario movie in this style could be. It is a very flawed film, like on a fundamental level. And just to cut to the chase, like if I were to rank this just purely as an animated like children's film, because it's not a family film, it is targeted towards children, just in the writing and everything, you can tell. It's like a 5 out of 10. It's like you would not need to see it. It would just kind of like pass over and just be like forgotten. Like from a critical standpoint, I don't think this movie's good. But from the standpoint of a fan of the Mario games, somebody who has played Mario games his whole life, who really is in tune with this series, who knows like much more about it than like the average person does, just seeing, just the spectacle, the idea of paying for tickets to sit down in a movie theater and see these characters that have been around for decades in a movie, even if it's not the best movie ever, and just seeing all the scattered pieces of Mario lore that the writers of this film, or the people at Nintendo, I'll get to that later, but whoever like decided to connect some of the stuff they did, it is completely worth the price of admission. And as a fan of the series, and again, I know this sounds really counterintuitive, when as a movie, like I can acknowledge it's not that good, but for fans of Mario, people who really care about this series, who I assume would be the only people listening to this movie's like an 8 out of 10. Like, if you know your stuff when it comes to Mario, there are so many, like, actually, like, niche references in this film that it's not just like, oh, look, there's some background thing. Like, this is going to be one of the first things I talk about. This was, as far as I know, not shown in the trailer. So again, like, I'm going to spoil the 10% of the film that was not shown in the trailers, which does not include the ending. I will not spoil the end of this film, but like if you've seen all the trailers for this movie, you've seen like 80% of it. I'm also going to talk about the 10% of the 80%. That doesn't make any sense. But the extra 10% before the end that was not in the trailers. Like, there are going to be spoilers in this, but like, if you've seen the trailers, I promise you, you are not missing much aside from the ending. And I say all that to say, one of the very first things I want to talk about is Pauline's in the movie, and they don't name her by name. They don't, like, there's no, like, real scene of her interacting with any of the other characters, but there's just, like, this news report, and Pauline is the one giving it out, and she's in her New Donk City outfit from Mario Odyssey. And it's like, I say all that to say, there's references like that, just kind of background things for fans to point out and be like, oh, I know what that's from, I know what that's referencing. But, like, the actual plot of this movie addresses so many things that the Mario games have just completely brushed over. And as a fan of this series, it's incredible that they have been addressed in any official capacity, even if this movie ends up meaning nothing to the Mario games. Like, if the story of this movie is just completely its own thing and it's never brought up in any Mario game from here onwards, the fact that this exists now as even an attempt to explain some of the strangeness of this series is kind of incredible. And again, I'm gonna bounce around a lot, but like, let's get into the I'll say the review portion. You already know my thoughts. Like, again, as a movie, it's like a 5. As a Mario for the fans movie, it's like an 8. And, you know, no movie is truly made for fans, and this movie, again, I've said this countless times, Illumination Animation, they are not making films that are, like, trying to challenge you intellectually or anything. They reach for a very broad demographic. But, like, I don't know if it's the people at Nintendo who pushed for, like, extra Mario lore to be in this movie, or if, like, there was some people somewhere working on this movie who really tried their best to squeeze in some true references to this franchise. But, like, one of the things that kind of blew me away is that, again, spoilers, not going to repeat again. Not talking about the ending, but last time I'm repeating that, I'm going to spoil some stuff. One thing that has always been weird, it's been joked about for years and years with this series, is that Princess Peach is the princess of the Toads. And it's like, why is this human woman the princess of these weird, noseless little mushroom people? What is this? How did this happen? Why? And, of course, because it was a video game and it was from back in the day, the point is you weren't meant to question it. It's just kind of like, oh, it just is the way it is. Like, games didn't worry about stories then. And that's the real-world answer. But in the universe of Mario, it's just like Mario and Peach and Luigi, they're like the only humans in any of these games. And like, if you go later, there's like Professor Egad and like Pauline, Daisy, Rosalina, like there are other humans, but like they are the primary humans in this series. And it's just like, what are they doing here? How did they get here? And this movie actually addresses that. So when Peach meets Mario for the first time, because this is basically a Mario origin story, they come from Brooklyn in this movie, and the voice acting, by the way, I'm going to pause on the description for a second to say, the voice acting in this film by everybody, including Mr. Mario himself, Chris Pratt, was surprisingly good. I actually have, like, no real complaints with any of the voice acting in this film. I think, I purposely didn't watch any other reviews. I really wanted to just kind of say what I thought about it without kind of getting my, opinion colored. I saw one other review, though. I saw jacksfilms talk about this movie. I'll link that video in the description. And he pointed out that Cranky Kong wasn't exactly his favorite vocal performance. And I think he said he really likes the actor who plays Cranky Kong. I forget his name. But he said that, like, oh, I wasn't really a fan of his delivery. And I don't really think that's on the actor who played Cranky Kong. I think Cranky Kong was just kind of like, he didn't really have much of a role in this movie. Like, it's kind of funny they credited him so prominently. Like, he was one of the voice talents they highlighted, and he really doesn't have that big of a role in the film. But I didn't have an issue with his voice acting. His character was just kind of nothing. The only voice actor that I was kind of like not in love with was Princess Peach, who's played by Anya Taylor-Joy. I know she's in a show called Queen's Gambit. I think it's a show. I really don't know anything about any role she's done in the past. And I thought she did a fine job. It wasn't bad at all, but Princess Peach is already, I imagine, like a hard character to find a voice for, besides like, oh, you just gotta kind of sound feminine. And it's like, yeah, you could cast any number of female actresses to do her, but I don't know. I kind of felt like her voice specifically it wasn't bad. It was fine, but I don't know. She was the only voice that stuck out to me as like, I'll say it wasn't as true to the character as I feel it possibly could have been, like everyone else was, which, again, to address the elephant in the room, everybody, rightfully so, memed on Chris Pratt getting the role of Mario in this movie, which is like, still conceptually, why? But after having watched the movie, he does a good job. He legitimately does a really good job as Mario. And getting to hear Chris Pratt, like, he does more of a Mario voice at the beginning. They make, like, a joke out of it. Like, there's this commercial that the brothers are doing for their plumbing business after they quit working at Spike. Spike from the game Wrecking Crew. He was, like, Mario and Luigi were in that game. They worked as Wrecking Crew, both in that game and in the movie, before starting their plumbing business. Again, that's one of the pieces of lore that they bring into this movie. And it's like, seeing this commercial that they do, Chris Pratt's doing the actual Mario voice from the games that Charles Martinet does. And then, like, after the commercial ends, he's just talking, and it's more like Chris Pratt's normal voice. And they kind of make a joke out of it. Like, do you think the accents are a little much? And it's funny, because normally that's the kind of thing that would really annoy me. Like, okay, you're just making fun of the source material now. But it's like, then Chris Pratt does a great job as Mario for the entire movie. Like, I never once was like, oh my gosh, why would you have picked this guy? He can't even do the voice accurately. But no, he makes Mario kind of his own, but he also stays true to, like, what you would expect Mario to sound like. Like, it's really incredible that he pulled it off. And with that being said, everybody else in the movie, zero complaints. Keegan-Michael Key as Toad does a good job. He actually sounds way more like Toad than I thought he would, even based on the trailers. Like, I was just like, yep, that's what Toad sounds like, sure. Donkey Kong Seth Rogen is hilarious. I will come back to that later. Jack Black Bowser is rightfully so the standout. Jack Black really did a great job in this role. It's not just that it's Jack Black being Bowser. It's not like, Po from Kung Fu Panda, where it's like, it's really Jack Black. No, he gets into character. He represents, the menacing, kind of funny sometimes, like goofy, whatever side of Bowser very, very well. Charlie Day Luigi is inspired casting. I've never seen It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but oh my gosh, I could not imagine anybody else having done Luigi as well as he could have. I wish Luigi had more screen time. And, all the other voices are great too. Kamek is good. Spike he's such a minor character. His voice could have been anything, but like, yeah, it seems right, fits. And man, with the voice cast out of the way, I kind of forget where I was before, but basically the Mario Bros, they do their commercial at the start of the movie, and then Spike's like making, fun of them. And then we see the bros kind of like getting ready to do their first job with their new plumbing business, which this basically says this is how they became plumbers. And then it shows them going to their first job, and this leads into, in my opinion, the worst scene of this entire movie, where they go to this lady's house. It's just like this whatever character, and her dog is there, and Luigi steps on the dog's bone, and it's very in character, and it's funny. Again, just seeing these characters in movie quality animation it's worth the price of admission, in my opinion. But like, Luigi steps on like this dog's bone, and then like the dog gets mad at him, and this leads into like, it felt like a 5-minute scene of the bros in a bathroom trying to stop this leaky faucet and fighting this dog off. And at first I was like, is the movie going to lean really hard into this kind of slapsticky, not like that, like, great humor? And fortunately, it very quickly moves away from this. Basically, they cause like a super big flood in the house, and then that leads to like the sewers of the city. There's like some kind of leak going on down there then. And so long story short, after traveling through the sewers for a bit, they find a pipe that leads them to the Mushroom Kingdom, and Luigi and Mario get separated. And I'm not going to break down the entire plot, but the point is that when Mario gets there, he meets this Toad, and this Toad character represents the weird side, the weird conflicting nature of this movie. So when he meets this Toad, he starts talking to him, and, well, no, actually, he goes and touches the mushroom. Again, it's, like, been in every single trailer. He's like, what is this place? And he goes and touches the mushroom, and the Toad jumps up, and he's like, do not touch that mushroom, you'll die! And it's like, okay, so this Toad has this backpack on, he's carrying all this stuff. Who is this? I thought, like, is this meant to be Captain Toad before he becomes Captain Toad? Like, this Toad character is called Toad for the entire movie. And there are tons and tons of Toads just like him. Well, not just like him, they're just like normal Toads. But this Toad has like this clear, adventurous kind of personality. Later on, Peach is like, oh, brave Toad. Like, now I've seen it all, or whatever she says. And it's like, this Toad is very clearly a specific character, and they never name him. And he represents the duality of like, wow, we've never seen the Mario universe, at least in the mainline games. I recently played Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, and like, I've seen what a Mario universe story can be like when it's done well. And it's like, this Toad character kind of leans into that, but at the same time, it's so weird because it's like, they never name him. It's like, who is this Toad though? Like, what's his name? I don't know. And the thing is that there's a lot of like stuff like that in this movie that kind of conflicts. Like, there's this blue-shelled turtle with spikes on its back that is clearly a reference. I mean, I say clearly a reference. It literally is confirmed in the movie. It is where the spiky blue shells in Mario Kart come from. And he is a specific one of these turtles. There is one specific blue-shelled spiky turtle who hits a cart in the Mario Kart scene, and we don't know his name. They never name him. And it's so weird and distracting. It's like, is this Nintendo being like, you can't create like named original characters in this film? Or is it like Illumination trying to play it safe with the Mario stuff so that the film can just be as broadly appealing as possible? And I say all that to say way later, there's a wedding scene with Bowser and Peach. Bowser kidnaps Peach and he's like getting ready to marry her. And at the wedding, King Bob-omb from Mario 64 and King Boo from Luigi's Mansion are there. Like, these specific, not seen a lot Mario characters are in the movie. And in fact, King Bob-omb is actually a plot-relevant character because they light his fuse and his explosion basically helps take down Bowser in that scene. And it's like, that is a very specific, very niche character to reference. He's from Mario 64. Everybody's played Mario 64, but it's like, that's still a character who's not like common in Mario. It's not like he's even in the Mario Kart games or anything. So it's like, why is this film simultaneously kind of like, it's like this, it's an Illumination movie. It reaches for the low-hanging fruit. It's not as bad as it could have been, but like, the script really needed another go-over because like this, again, to backtrack, I know I'm jumping all over, but to backtrack to this Toad character, right? Like, they basically have him adventuring, like I say, and like kind of journeying around. And he teams up with Mario when Mario's like, oh, I got separated from my brother Luigi. And the Toad character's like, oh no, then he probably landed in the Badlands, which is where Bowser's castle is and everything. And it's like, he ends up going on this journey with Mario and Peach, but why? What is his motivation as a character to go with them? They never really, like, they skip establishing, like, why he cares about Mario reuniting with his brother beyond just, oh, it's sad that he got separated from his brother and Bowser has him, so, like, I guess I'm just gonna join him. He doesn't know Mario, and like there's this running gag that starts popping up later on where the Toad keeps yelling like, that's my best friend! Like when Mario fights Donkey Kong, he's up in the rafters yelling that, and it's like, Why? Why does this Toad think he's Mario's best friend? They haven't, like, developed any sort of relationship. Mario just showed up, and this Toad, who was just traveling for no established reason, we don't even know why he's brave or why he likes to travel. He's like, come on, Mario, I'll take you to Princess Peach, and I'll go on this journey to help you out. Who are you? We don't know who you are. You're just some random character that they just made up for this movie. And on that same token, there's like these scenes where it's like, again, why does Princess Peach live in the Mushroom Kingdom with the Toads? Why does Bowser want to marry Peach? And this movie really addresses that. It's like, and the Bowser marrying Peach thing, we've seen he does like Peach, but like this movie's basically like, yeah, he likes Peach, but also he really is trying to like get the power of her kingdom. Like he wants to be able to rule the world with her by his side. And it's like, with the Peach thing, seeing that she came probably from the real world as well as a baby, it's like, it doesn't answer, like, who her parents are, where she comes from. In fact, they very purposefully are like, I don't know where I came from, like Peach says. She's like, I just showed up here and the Toads raised me as one of their own and made me their princess. Earlier on, we see Mario and Luigi's mom and dad and, like, some of their extended family. And it's like, the simultaneousness of that Toad character who has, like, no motivation to be helping Mario on this journey and, like, is unnamed. It's just this random character who is unnamed. It is so weird. I cannot stress that enough, that they have this character who's a part of the main cast who is never addressed once by name outside of Toad. But then these disparate pieces of the fractured mess that is the Mario, like, lore, the canon of the games, being brought together like this, it is a very uneven movie, but, like, uneven in a way that's, like, you can see how whatever the plot is, but then you can see how it's like, wow, this is like, it's not just that this movie connects these different pieces of canon that have never made sense in the Mario games. It's that it does it, and this is official, in some capacity at least. And it's like, to have a piece of I'll say, story that really connects this stuff in a meaningful way is literally insane to me. I cannot believe that we now have a film that we can look at and be like, well, I guess that's how Mario and Luigi came to be in the Mushroom Kingdom. And of course, this isn't like even perfect in that regard, because it's like, so where does that leave the Yoshi's Island game when there's, baby Mario riding on Yoshi through the Mario world? And yeah, I didn't even mention there's like even a scene of baby Mario and Luigi in this movie. And it's like, you referenced baby Mario and baby Luigi, like not just baby versions of them, the specific used in Mario Kart baby Mario and Luigi designs are in this movie. That is not something that some just executive at Illumination would know off the top of their head. Like, it's just crazy, like that this movie does the things it does and is somehow also not awful. And that's the big takeaway. Like, yeah, this movie, in my opinion, is like a 5 out of 10. I could see people going as low as a 3 if you're like really like looking at it critically as a film. Like, it's really not that good. But as a product that is trying to be a movie in the Mario universe and actually have like a real story, not just Mario, not just retelling the original Mario Bros, where it's like Mario rescues Peach who gets kidnapped by Bowser, go. Like, telling an actual connected, cohesive story with multiple characters is insane. And speaking of multiple characters, jump ahead, all the relationships are so well done that I wish it's the primary reason I wish the writing was better. Mario and Luigi's brotherly relationship has never been explored this much before. Not even in like the story-driven Marios, as far as I know. Like, we really, really see how they act with one another in this movie in a way that, again, I've never seen in a Mario game. It is really cool to see that. And the way they introduce Mario and Donkey Kong to each other is so funny. So basically, Princess Peach is like, oh, we gotta stop Bowser, so we gotta go recruit the Kong army. So they go to the Donkey Kong Kingdom, and it's like, they talk to Cranky Kong, and he's like, I'll help you out only if you defeat my son in combat. And Mario's like, okay, I'll do that. And the whole fight they have, again, you see it in the trailers, you basically know how it turns out. It works out that after the fight is done, Donkey Kong for the rest of the movie is really kind of like bitter, a sore loser about it. And it is exactly the kind of relationship I would expect if Mario and Donkey Kong appeared in the mainline games, like, ever together. Basically, they're like these rivals who keep like picking at each other through the whole movie. And it never gets annoying. It's played very well for laughs. But just seeing this relationship that, like, Mario and Donkey Kong came together in the first game to feature them both, Donkey Kong, and we have never seen their relationship explored to the extent it is in this movie. And this whole time I've been hopping back and forth between, like, the critical, literal side of this film, which I do not think is that good, and the actual Mario fan side of this. And it's like, no film is truly made for fans. Like, at least no film on this scale. It is made to appeal to a wide demographic, to make money. That is what these companies, these big Hollywood films like this are made for. They are meant to make money. But somewhere in here, whether it be Nintendo, whether it be Illumination, whether it be just some screenplay writer, I don't even know who wrote the screenplay, whoever worked on this movie, there is some small group of people who really realized what this movie could do. There are some hands in this film who were like, this is what we can do with this movie, and they did it. And the fact that they did it in a package that is not awful is literally all I ever could have asked for. The relationships in this movie are actually well defined. You understand all the characters, even Mario. Like, they keep him a little bland just so that he can still have, like, his silent protagonist thing going in the games, and it still works. Like, but everybody feels like themselves. Everybody feels perfectly in character. Again, so much so that, like, I wish the dialogue was tighter, that we had more scenes of talking. Like, this movie is mostly action scenes, which all of the action is extremely well choreographed. I was very pleased with, like, all of the fight scenes in this film. Like, it's all very well done whenever there's a lot of stuff going on. Especially, like, you can tell that, like, they really thought about, like, how do we incorporate platforming into this movie? How do we bring the idea of characters moving through an area and jumping and sliding and kind of, like, flying through these areas super fast, like, running around stuff? How do we incorporate that into our action scenes? And it paid off beautifully. Like, all of the action is probably the most consistently well executed aspect of this film. And it's almost so well done, again, that it serves in direct contrast to kind of the sloppiness of the story at points, where it's just kind of like, man, it's not good enough. Like, a 6 out of 10 to me is, like, a frustrating thing. And this is definitely a 5, where it's like, it's not worth getting worked up over, but it's almost funny, because it's like, man, the people who cared enough to make all these specific Mario, like, lore references and connect stuff, like, there was one other thing, too, I wanted to mention, where it's, I forget, but there's some other, like, there's so many little lore things that just get addressed in this film, and it's like, man, I wish the people who cared enough to make these references had maybe more creative control, or maybe they had all the creative control, and, like, it just so happened they really know their Mario stuff, but it really feels like somebody who wanted answers to some of these long-standing Mario questions just went all in and said, fine, I'm going to be the one to answer them in this movie. And even the music, the music throughout this film, there are so many different themes from the Mario games. There's so many sound effects from the Mario games. Even, like, they have the like, beetle enemies from, I believe it's either 3D Land or 3D World on the Switch or 3DS. Or I think 3D World was actually Wii U originally. I think that was one of the ports. But the point is that they even reference those modern, like, little beetle enemies. There's so many touches that are, like, there's clearly a lot of passion behind this project. This is not just a cash grab. in certain aspects. In terms of, again, the broad Illumination kind of broadest demographic possible, just cast your net as wide as it can possibly go. Yeah, it's not good. It truly isn't that good. But in terms of like feeling like it's for the fans, to me, it gave me a feeling that I don't think you can fake. I do not think that you could fake the amount of I just want to say, like, love for this franchise that there is in this film. Like, there is very clearly a sizable portion of the staff behind this movie who were like, we can really do something with this, so let's try. And so the film has kind of resulted in critics not liking it and audiences eating it up. Quite honestly, I can see both sides very, very clearly. It is very obvious to me where both groups are coming from. And all that remains to be seen is how successful this film is going to be. Because it's an Illumination film. I think the worst they ever did, they did like make like several times over the film's budget back. I don't even know which film it is. But like, the Mario movie is going to be a success. The question is by how much? And again, without giving away anything at the end, there is a chance that they are already looking towards the future with Nintendo. And obviously Nintendo, at least I would think that they're not going to like switch studios. If they make any more movies, it will be with Illumination. So I am extremely curious where the future could lead these two companies, because the sky is the limit. There are so many franchises you could do movies with. You could do a solo Donkey Kong movie because they have Diddy Kong and Dixie Kong in this film, which Diddy Kong is like a common enough character that I wasn't too shocked to see him. But even like just the fact that Dixie Kong is on screen in this film, I'm like, that's not an obvious reference. Like, it completes the quartet of characters in, like, Tropical Freeze or Donkey Kong Country Returns, but it's like, really? You even, like, included that character? That's kind of incredible to me. So, yeah, if it's not blatantly obvious, I have mixed feelings on this film. But it's like, it was worth the price of admission to see these characters, this lore, just this world presented in such a consistent way that I don't think it truly ever has been before. And if I'm completely honest with myself, I had exactly one expectation that I was like, this film needs to meet it. And it was, I needed to hear Seth Rogen doing the laugh he does as Donkey Kong. And I am pleased to report that there is not one, but two scenes of Seth Rogen doing his laugh as Donkey Kong. And man, if that wasn't worth the price of admission by itself, I do not know what would have made it worthwhile. So, yeah, I know I kind of went on for a little while there, but I have so many feelings about this movie. And the thing is, I don't even know if I'd say I'm excited for these future films if they do come out from Nintendo and Illumination, but man, there is a high chance they could sucker me back into the theater to watch a Luigi's Mansion movie or like a Pikmin movie. So let me know, what did you think of the Mario movie? Do you agree with me that this movie felt a little sloppy in parts, but then very like a love letter, very much so, a love letter to this like decades old franchise like I do? Did you notice all the little Easter eggs throughout? And do you have any hopes for the future with Illumination and Nintendo movies? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. This has been Payton, and I'm done ranting.